Welcome to our webinar today on Peru, Land of the Incas, program that we're going to be enjoying next year, starting at the end of May. If you haven't been to Peru yet, which obviously is probably why you haven't if you're attending our webinar today, Peru is really, I've been to several of the South American countries, and I think it is one of the most diverse in terms of the experience that you can have there. There's so many facets to it. You could spend weeks and weeks and weeks, but this program covers some of the key highlights. Before we get into that, just a couple of brief words about Wheel and Anchor, what we're all about. We are, as many of you who participate in our webinars before will know, a community of people from all across Canada. And what we have in common is desire to travel in a Canadian kind of a way. We're, for the most part, I think our members are all quite soft-spoken and inquisitive and adventurous and, willing to try stuff. And, it's hard to put your finger on, but I think, as most of us have traveled around the world and traveled either with or near people from other countries, it definitely makes us proud to be Canadian. And so Wheel and Anchor, we're bringing us all together to be able to enjoy some amazing experiences. And the way that we do our trips and what makes us special is the fact that, my personal goal is to have everybody be well traveled. And that means a lot more than just, as I've said over and over again, it means more than checking off a bucket list, but going and really trying to get a sense of what life is like in that country and talking to the people and spending a bit more time. Obviously in doing so, you become connected to the people you meet along the way. So that's what we are all about at Wheel and Anchor. And at this point, I'd like to introduce our team. So Martine, you can turn your video back on. My name is Gordon. I'm the founder of Wheel and Anchor, and I am joined today by my two esteemed colleagues, Paula Sarnik and Barbara Comegis, who you've probably spoken to Paula at some point in the future if you've been in touch with our office. And Barb is fairly new to our team, both of whom have a lot of experience in travel and will be the people who will help you through the process of joining one of our trips. And our special guest today, I'm very excited to introduce Martine Rasset. Good morning, Martine. How are you this morning? Are you in Canada or are you in the South America right now?
South America, but I'm actually in Canada right now. Yeah, I'm usually here though, in this beautiful part of the world. Nice to see everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
So Martine, we worked for the better part of a year alongside with, and actually Martine and Paula go way back. And she is a passionate traveler with a lot of experience bringing guests through parts of Latin America, specifically Peru, and also Costa Rica. Martine is also hosting our Costa Rica and running our Costa Rica program this coming January. I'm sure that if you get the opportunity to travel with her, you'll have an amazing time, and it will make you want to see even more of these great destinations. So today we are going to be talking, though, about Peru. So you are probably going to see you want to see Machu Picchu as much as any other place. Machu Picchu is, of course, amazing, but it's all the other stuff that you see along the way. It's like the road to Machu Picchu from Cusco has some amazing, amazing sites in it. So today we're going to give you a little digital tour of what our itinerary is going to be all about next May. And I am going to be your guide. Actually, more importantly, Martine's going to be your guide because she goes there all the time. And I've been there a few times to Peru. But it's always best when we have the experts involved. And so we're going to take a look at what the program is all about. And on that note, we're going to dive right in and look at our program overall. And I'm going to pass the baton to, so to speak, to Martine in just a moment. But our program, of course, begins and ends in Lima, the capital of Peru, an amazing city. And I remember I first went there. God, I can't even remember. It was more than 20 years ago. And things have changed and evolved, and the city has gentrified in sort of some positive ways, but also maintained this charm. One of the things about Lima that I like is that it's become a foodie capital. You have some incredible restaurants there, and that really focus on this Peruvian cuisine. So anyway, I won't go on any more about that. We start in Lima. Our program will go overland down the coast, down to the Ballestas Islands, Paracas, the opportunity to do Nazca. Martin's going to tell about that in a second. We then fly up over the Andes Mountains to get to Cusco, high up in a plateau on the mountains there. That's where going to be our point to see the Sacred Valley, Machu Picchu, and all of the stuff that we see up in the higher elements. And then for those that wish, we have an extension program available as well over in Puerto Maldonado, which is really very far upstream on the Amazon River, although the Amazon goes even further upstream. But that's a great way to get a bit of an insight into the Amazon region. So that's the program overall. And so Martin is now going to tell us all about it, starting from Lima, where we'll arrive. I just want to say one moment before you get in, Martin, because I know you're chomping at the bit. At the moment, there are the flight situation, as you know, post-pandemic, we're still not all the flights are in place. Air Canada was flying regularly from Toronto to Lima. Those flights have not been completely reinstated yet. So at the moment, there are connections down there via Panama, via Bogota, and so on, via the US, although, you know, that's also not so ideal, but there are lots of ways to get there. We are hopeful and optimistic that we'll have flights directly from Toronto to Lima. If you're coming from the West Coast, in any event, you're probably going to fly via Houston or you know, one of the gateways in the US. Not to worry, we will get you there. And once you're there, you're going to have this smiling face, Martin, who's going to greet you in Lima. And so tell us give us a few of the highlights, why it is that we want to see some of these places in Lima. I love this picture of the coast.
Yeah.
We'll stop talking, Martin.
No, I mean, everything you say is like bang on. You know, Peru is actually one of my favorite countries. All of actually, you know, South America. There's so much diversity in that part of the world. But this country is just rich when it comes to its culture, its food, its landscapes. So we're actually going to show you some incredible landscapes along the way, starting with Lima. So Lima is basically the second largest capital. That's a desert, essentially. And I want to give you some numbers here, just so people understand, like there's basically the coast represents only 11% of the landmass, but there's over 52% of the people that live there. So it's very highly populated. Then you head into the highlands, you're looking at about 30% of the landmass, but there's 36% of the people. And then you go to the Amazon, which represents almost 60% of the landmass, 59 to be specific, and it represents 12% of the population. So, you know, there's a lot of people on the coast. So we're not going to spend that much time on the coast, but the coast has such incredible scenery that we're going to see. Lima, first of all, we're going to actually start with a tour of Lima. I'm not going to go into details of everything you're going to see, but you're going to see a lot of its sort of history, a lot of its historic center. You're going to see the, you know, plazas. You're going to see main squares, catacombs, different things like that. Even a really beautiful, basically, site that we called Huacapulcana, which is, you know, one of the oldest sites in the area. So we're going to see it's very cultural. The food, like you say, it's you know, gastronomy there is incredible. Central, Maido, these are restaurants that are considered, you know, the most incredible restaurant, Michelin star restaurants. We're not going to go to those restaurants necessarily, but of course, if you arrive earlier, make your bookings at least 3 months in advance, you can go to these restaurants. But we will be eating some of the best food on this trip. I say I've traveled a lot of the world, and there is no food that compares to Peruvian food in terms of its quality and taste. And so if people don't believe me, you have to come and try it for yourself. I mean, I wear stretchy pants, but you know, by the time you finish, you're, oh, I need stretchier pants. And so, yeah, from here, basically, we're going to be able to start feeling the culture of the Limeños, like basically people living in Lima. We'll be visiting what we call barrios, which are neighborhoods, like next door Barranco, which is very sort of hippie and, you know, has this like art scene, and you can see this right here. It has these bridges that, you know, you can make a wish as you go through. They have a lot of history, huge mansions, these kinds of things. We're going to be staying in Miraflores, which is another barrio of Lima. So we're not going to be in Lima proper, because Lima proper is a, you know, it's raw. So we're going to be in Miraflores, which is a lot more tourist friendly, very, very secure. And we have, we'll be on the Malecón, really looking out at the ocean. And there's lots to do there if you do arrive earlier, if you want to take a few more days and just explore that more. But we're going to be seeing things like the Larco Museum, which has the largest collection of Inca pottery. It's incredible. Just we're going to do a lot of fun stuff. And that first day already is going to be a full day. You'll arrive and you'll have your time to kind of get into everything. And then the next day we go into developing this beautiful sort of journey where you can discover Lima.
Exactly. Yeah. And that Larco Museum, they have quite an interesting exhibit of what do they call it? Erotic art or something like that. Anyway.
Yes. I always blush when I go in there, especially one time I went with my dad. That was not appropriate. But it's definitely, it's very original. And it's a private collection that we have access to.
That in the Incan culture anyway, it's you have to see it to believe it.
Yeah. And we'll definitely be seeing that. So,
and I think the one thing I want to say about Lima is that particularly Miraflores, which is, as Martine said, the area we're going to be seeing, it's a lovely area for walking around. And importantly, it's safe. Now, I recommend that women walk around in the middle of the night on their own. No, but I mean, I don't recommend that.
I did it many times, but don't do it. It's very safe.
So, that gives you some indication, right? And so it's safe, it's lovely. And if you want to come in a day or two earlier, as Martine suggested, just for these restaurants, and I know this came up when we were running this, or planning to run this trip earlier this year. And, I highly suggest if you are into your food, it's worth spending the extra day. But anyway, let's not dwell on that.
Yeah, I just added the name of the restaurants in the chat if anyone's wondering what those were again.
Yep. Perfect. We will then proceed down the coast, as I was pointing out on the map, heading down to Paracas, and you pass some interesting landscapes, because I can still remember my first view of Peru, and it's like the desert melts into the ocean, and you really get a sense of this dramatic landscape as we head down towards Paracas. So anyway, tell us about Paracas and what we're going to see along the way.
Well, of course, you put my favorite drink up there, which is the Pisco Sour. But before we get into Pisco's, which will be that evening, I mean, unless you want to start earlier, we certainly can. But basically, as you say, as you drive down the coast, it's just this incredible landscape of desert. And then you're going to see a lot of how the people live there. So culturally, for some people, it can be a little, because we're going to see a lot of poverty. There's a lot of poverty in those areas. But it's a rich culture. It's a very, very rich culture. And you'll learn about that as we drive down into the Paracas area. And so Paracas there was an ancient culture, the Paracas culture, which dates back to 800, BC. And so there's a lot of pottery, textiles. They're known for their intricate weavings. And there's all other culture, the Nazca culture, there's different groups, and you're going to learn about them on our tour when we're in there. And so everywhere we go, when we get to an area, we have our specialty guides that are there. So technically speaking, I'm not your guide. We like to hire guides in the area, of course, because we support the locals, and that's how we make sure that it's as sustainable of a trip as possible and giving back. So you're going to learn from the actual, people that live there and know their country back at, like the back of their hands. I know a lot just because I listen a lot and I study a lot, but I'm not from Peru. And so Pisco Sours that day, we're going to be going to one of my favorite, hotels. And again, the sooner everyone books, the sooner we can secure these. Yes, La Hacienda. And it's just a beautiful place, and you'll have some time to relax there. There's also a museum within the hotel where you can go and learn about all the Paracas people, the Nazca people. And that night, I'm going to do a Pisco tasting with all of you. If you don't drink alcohol, no worries. You can get something non-alcoholic, which is as delicious. But I have to say, Pisco, it's our brandy. It's basically the Peruvian brandy. Made of distilled grapes, basically, or even like fermented wine, you could say. So, or is it non-fermented wine? All of a sudden, I'm like confusing myself. I'll check it out. But it's so delicious. It's really fantastic. It has some special ingredients that I'll tell you about when we're together. If you've never.
We're down for a couple of different things. And so we will head out onto a visit in the Ballestas Islands. But obviously this region, one of the reasons that people come down there is to see the Nazca lines. And so this is an optional part of the trip.
Yeah, we didn't put it for everyone because not everyone may want to do this.
Exactly.
But it's phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing to see, and I'll just let you speak about it for a second, but to see the Nazca lines, and Martine will give us a brief explanation about what they are if you haven't heard of them before. You have to basically fly over them in an airplane, and so you know, I've had multiple people do this trip, and we've had multiple comments, and you know, it's a small little plane. And they fly a little bit. It's like a flying roller coaster. So it's a little bit of an adventure for folks. But if you're somebody that doesn't terribly get prone to motion sickness and is comfortable going in a little airplane, it's absolutely worth it. And Martine, you're going to tell us why.
Yeah, and I've been in these planes several times, and I'm not motion senseless in myself. I'm like affected by it. So just be aware. It's 95 minutes to get there. 45 minutes to get there. Another 45 minutes or so, or no, 45 minutes in total of travel, and then the rest is actually seeing the actual fight. So it's something. I mean, it's definitely something you want to add to your bucket list. These are 2,000-year-old giant geoglyphs that have been etched into the soil. You can see them from, of course, the sky only. I mean, if you're on the ground, you'll see these lines, but they're huge. These are huge drawings. They depict animals. They depict flowers. They depict basically scenery, you know, and it's said that it was for their gods, you know, they were doing this, but there's not much information on them other than sort of our assumptions. You know, these date back so many years, and because of the environment, it's basically a crust that has created and is as basically secured those lines in the ground. So it's really something special, and not everyone has to do it. It's a morning thing, you know. If you rather just stay at the hotel and enjoy the property, which is incredible, you can do that. And then we regroup in the afternoon to go see another magical spot. I don't know if you have a photo of it, but we're going to be going to the first, no, go back then, because that's our next day. We're going to the Paracas. We're going to be going to the Paracas National Reserve, and I think it's worth really talking about here, because this is the place that you're going to feel like you're on the moon. It's a protected park that basically has over 3,350 square kilometer miles, and it protects ocean and land. So this is where the Ballestas Islands, this is next, we go the next day. The Ballestas Islands is within this national park. And it's just so magical. And in there's a restaurant, Lagunitas, I can't ever say that name. Anyways, it's a restaurant in an area where we can have parihuela, which is like the soup that's made of all fresh seafood. Anyway, so you'll really get to you'll get to understand the coast in this area. And then we have the flamingos. We have all these different, you know, the brown boobies, all these different birds that you're going to be able to see. You may even see dolphins from the coast. That happened to me a couple of times. You know, just by standing there in the park. So we're going to do that in the afternoon, maybe even see some sun setting and stuff. It'll be really wonderful. And then the next day is another adventure as well.
Beauty is Martine is alluding to that of Peru, because you have this coastal landscape, you have this dry desert landscape. Of course, the next part of the trip is the Andes and the mountains and the green, and totally different. And then, you know, for those that continue on to the Amazon, you have the tropical rainforest, the dense rainforest, and so on. So you really get to see quite a lot on one trip. The next day, the Ballestas Islands, I want to defer to you once again.
Well, first of all, you just said it, like in your first 3 days of being in this country, you'll feel like you've been gone for at least a week. Some people even say like a month. We're going to see so many things, but yet it's not exhausting. You know, we don't have to trek with bags or, you know, everything's going to be easily, you know, brought to us in a way. But we're going to see so many things. So here, the Ballestas Islands, otherwise known as the Galapagos Islands of Peru, because here we have humpback penguins, we have Peruvian boobies, we have sea lions. You know, you could even see humpback whales, you know, if you are lucky, because I have never yet in my many, many, many times, but you never know. They do come in this area. Maybe you'll be the first group I'll get to do that with. And it's basically such an incredible environment. We'll be circumventing the islands. We're not going on the islands. They're protected. And you'll learn about I won't go into details because I want you to learn about them there, but we'll be going on, quite rapid boats out there and then circumventing the islands and see all this incredible wildlife. So if you're a photographer, if you're someone just loves being on a boat, if you're someone who loves wildlife, I mean, this is the perfect tour for you. And just a side note is that it all depends on the weather. There could always be a chance that they cancel, but very rarely do they cancel, but just so you know, that could happen. But this is definitely one of our highlights, and we want you
out to the Ballestas Islands, which is always a bit of a surprise. So I'm going to, just disclose it now. But you see a huge giant drawing in the sand on one of the islands out there called the Chandelier, la Candelabra, exactly. And it's not officially one of the Nazca lines because but nevertheless, it's, if you opt not to go to the Nazca lines, it kind of has the same effect.
It does. It has the exact effect. They just have been made. I think they were done like hundreds of years apart, but they're not even sure they're from the same people. But it really is a big Nazca line, isn't in a sense? In the ground. It's really magnificent, actually. Yeah.
So, we will spend a couple of days down there on the coast, as Martine alluded to, and then we head back to Lima. And then we make our way up to the highlands, up to Cusco.
That's right. The next morning, we're going to take a flight and head into Cusco. So we've also kept in consideration the altitudes. Now, some people have concerns about altitudes. Really, there's no need to have concerns. We're starting our trip, obviously, at sea level. We're heading to Cusco, which is about 11,000 feet above sea level. But right away, we're going to go right down into the Sacred Valley, which is about a 4,000, feet difference, from when you're in Cusco. So you get to acclimatize in the Sacred Valley. And the Sacred Valley is about 80 kilometers of just magic. I mean, Sacred Valley, it really is. You're surrounded by these mountains. There's all these ruins and all of these sort of archaeological sites, Pisac being one of them. That's where we're going to start that day. We're going to be going straight into the Sacred Valley and going to Pisac. And that's where you're going to start learning really about the Inca civilization and how it's still influenced in Peru today. I mean, you still have a lot of the traditions that have been married with Christianism. There's all of these things you're going to learn about, everything from weaving to what, the women, the men, they still wear, and it's not a show. This is really them. We're really entering a cultural experience here because the people really embody their culture. It's not like they dress up, some parts of Peru, like areas where they will dress up and then, they'll do their show and then they go home with their cell phones. But in this area, it's very authentic, which is what I love the most about it.
What I found interesting about that is that not only in the dress, but in the creation of the fabrics and the weaving, and they've tried to maintain and hand down over generations these crafts, and it's remarkable. I mean, I'm not somebody that shops a lot when I travel around because imagine I'd have so much stuff, but I honestly, Peru is one of those places where there are really some gems of stuff because they truly make these wonderful, all kinds of different things,
Yeah, so you'll find out that even the colors have symbols, the style, even the way they braid their hairs, the type of hat they wear. You're going to learn all of that, which is so meaningful. And then, like you say, shopping. Some people love shopping, and so we're going to have some of the most amazing markets with authentic, nothing made in China or imported. It's all made like Chinchero. It's made in these small towns, and you're supporting the local people. So hey, that's good karma, in my opinion. Sustainable tourism is the way to go.
So the important point there, we arrive in Cusco, immediately head into the Sacred Valley. That's a key thing to look for on a Peru trip because otherwise people can suffer a little bit because of the altitude. You won't have that problem here. And we will get this introduction to some of these Inca sites, which are sort of the great lead up to, the ultimate Machu Picchu.
That's right.
The salt mines we'll see as well, the terrace salt mines in that valley. That's for me a super memorable experience. experience.
So everything's very accessible and you can go as far in as you want. You can see here in the distance. So there's the terraces and then beyond. I don't know if you can see a little bit up in the mountains. That's the actual site. So some people might want to go explore there. Others might want to just stay at the terraces. We can adapt the trip very well. That said, you must be comfortable walking on uneven terrain because that's Peru, right? But we're going to be very mindful about everyone and how they feel comfortable where they're going. So you're going to have support of 2 hosts plus your guide. So you're going to be well surrounded in this trip.
We're going to be well surrounded. So
Yeah.
This town here, is it sort of at the, I guess you could call it the bottom of the Sacred Valley. This is the gateway to Machu Picchu. And I was really taken away by this fortress here that, again, everything, all the talk, all the attention is all on Machu Picchu. And yet the stuff that leads up to it is in some ways just as impressive.
Yeah, I'd say in some cases it's even more impressive. So this is Ollantaytambo. So if you want to pronounce it after me, Ollantaytambo. And it's really it was a fortress. It was a protective for the Inca group. It basically at the end of the Sacred Valley, sort of one of those defense, areas, but we can climb up and there's some incredible views. And then you'll see just how incredible these stones are, how they're positioned. You can't even put a piece of paper between them. It's just incredible, the technology they had in the construction. And there's a beautiful market here as well. If you don't feel like going up this site, go shopping. And there's great restaurants in this area.
Ollantaytambo is where we get on the train to go into Machu Picchu, because of course into Aguascalientes, which is the town immediately below the site, because of course there's no roads in. So there's only 2 ways to get to Machu Picchu. You either take the train or you walk. Well, we're not going to. That's a different.
Walking.
We're not walking.
No, we're taking a nice train, actually, a really beautiful train with a lot of vista. You can really see a lot of, you're going to be going through almost like rainforest at some point. It's really the trajectory really changes as you go through.
It's spectacular. The trip itself is amazing in and of itself. We get into Aguascalientes, and then it's up to Machu Picchu.
Yeah. Aguascalientes, by the way, it's hot water is because there's a lot of hot springs in the area.
And so we're going to be spending a night there. So we are down in Aguascalientes for the night. And then this is where we get to access Machu Picchu. So we'll, load onto these buses that will take us up to the gate. Because of course, Machu Picchu, as you probably know, is restricted entry. They have a limited number of guests that they allow in every day. And you'll get up there and again, there is walking and steps involved. So, you to fully experience the whole site, you need to walk up a bit and down, and there's no handrails, everything's protected. But when you get up there, one of the first things you'll see is practically this vista that you see right here in this picture. And it will send chills down your spine. Martine, tell us a bit more about the day.
Yeah, well, first I want to add that you say it is limited. So the sooner everyone can book their spot in this group, the sooner we can confirm our time here. This is actually the only thing that gives some pressure when we start organizing groups, is to make sure we can get you in that specific day. And it does sell out. So we do want to make sure everyone books their spot sooner than later so we can get you guys in there. So Machu Picchu, just so you know, there's a rumor that eventually in the near future, you won't even be able to go into the site anymore. They're trying to protect it, right? So you're going to be one of the lucky few, perhaps in the future, that will have been able to enter the site. And it's magical when you go in there. I've been there, I can't even count anymore. And every time I'm there, I'm impressed with what I see. So you will be too. And so we're going to be, and it is up and down, you go up and down stairs. There's various corridors now that you can do. So there's different routes within, but they always go in the same directions, can't go back. So I'm saying that because if there's someone that's like, I don't really want to do so much up and down, we can choose a route that's a little bit less up and down for you within that. But if you want to stick with the group, we're going up and down. And it's, you're going to learn about the Sun Temple. You're going to see the quarters where the people would live. You'll find out why it was even created, and what is it, where is it in the scheme of things, and how it was found. It's a great story. It's really wonderful. There's a reason it's so popular.
Yeah, there's a reason it's so popular, and it's not just the pretty pictures. So
yeah.
so correct me if I'm Martin, correct me if I'm wrong, but some people will have the opportunity to go up again, subject to them being able to get a ticket and all the rest of it. Yes.
Correct, which is again why we want you guys to book earlier. So the sooner you book, then because a lot of people will want to go in again the next morning, because we're going to do an afternoon hike, which is my favorite because you get the sunset. It's not as warm as people, but some people like to go really early morning, and early morning also there's less people and there's the sunrise, and it's magical. So the day you'll be with us will be the day with the guide where you'll get more information. It'll be very informative. But if you are someone that just wants to be, right, there's also that side where some of you just want to be somewhere. You don't want to be like, hearing a story or anything. Then you can obviously go back in the morning. If you do want to go with our guide will be available to you if you want to get something more in depth, a specific topic, for example. So you'll be able to do that. And those who are not going back in the park, then you have the morning to enjoy Aguascalientes, which has again markets, lots of markets. There are a few areas where one specific area where you can go in these hot springs. We can talk about that if you're interested in that as well. And I have a couple ideas of what else we could do as well. So just too many details here, but you'll see. Come and you'll be surprised.
One of our members, Ardell, asked a question about if you can't get a ticket into the gates. Well, we book our tickets in advance, so it's not a problem. Okay. We certainly book the tickets for the first day, and for the second day, I think Martine has her ways of making sure that we can get in.
Yes, there's so many different options for that, but again, the sooner everyone confirms their spot, the sooner we can get this all done for everyone. And that's really the only thing that puts the pressure on booking early, but it always helps, be prepared.
Exactly. And so, one more thing I wanted to say about that is I remember the last time I was in Machu Picchu, and it was like we went the afternoon, and it was kind of misty and a light rain and very beautiful. But then the following day we went back, and not everybody went back, but it was bright sunshine. It was like going to a different place. And so this is the other benefit to going up twice. You just never know how the weather's going to be in the middle of the end mountains like this. So
exactly. And it's not a huge investment either to do it. So it's worth to do it if you're just even thinking maybe,
Precisely. And so we will then take the train back out from Aguascalientes back to Ollantaytambo, and then on the same day make our way all the way to Cusco, where we will spend the next few nights.
Yeah.
Cusco is a city that it certainly exceeded my expectations. But tell us a little bit about what we're doing in Cusco, because we designed it because I said to Martine, we must have an extra day of time, because it's a great city for wandering markets and so on aside, but it's just a cool city. So give us a little spiel about Cusco. So
Cusco is a UNESCO heritage protected city. It's magnificent. Really, it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Actually, its main square has been voted the second most beautiful in the world after one in Italy. So just that's how beautiful it is. This is Saxai Woman that you're seeing here, otherwise pronounced as sexy woman. People say that, but it's Saxai Woman. And if I were to put a person next to those stones, it would be, you could hardly see the person. And the structure of Saxai Woman, you'll find out what it is when you're there. But a lot of the top part was removed and was used to build Cusco by the Spaniards in the 1500s when they came and colonized. So you're going to see that influence of the Spaniards with the Inca, and then you'll go into churches and see the mix of the two traditions. It has beautiful plazas, San Blas, which is considered one of the nicest areas to visit. We're going to be in that area, and great restaurants. Like it's another food like capital, really. And yes, the first day when we first arrived in the afternoon, there was some time to relax, go to markets, just go to have a tea in the plaza, whatever you want to do. The next day, we're going to go to Saxai Woman. We might go see Korikancha, which is what you're seeing right here. Korikancha, again, is like an old monastery, but it's built on Inca sort of terraces. So you're going to learn about that if you want, or you might be into like, I want to go look for, some alpaca, baby alpaca, wool jacket that day. And that's what you're going to do. But we're going to keep it very flexible, because the next day you'll actually have a full free day to just do your thing there. There's like the hop on, hop off bus. if you don't want to walk, but you just want to see a lot of things. You can go into the various churches that are there. And if Korikancha the day before wasn't, in the cards, you can go today. So it's a city that I love, 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 love. Of course, we're at 11,000 feet above sea level. So you don't want to be jogging here. My husband once tried to play soccer. That did not work well. It's a different environment. So you want to take your time there. And that's why it's great to have an extra day, because then you can really just take your time,
I mean, we had an extra day the last time we went to Peru, and last time we went to Cusco, and it was definitely worth it because, yeah, you just want to take things a little bit slow, but it is worth soaking in everything that this city has to offer. And so then the final day, we'll have to bid farewell to Cusco. And for those that are not participating in the extension, you'll fly back to Lima and then catch a connecting flight back to Canada. Of course, you are welcome to stay on a couple extra days in Lima as a post program as well. Alternatively, we put it on as an extension because, again, some people are interested in the Amazon and what that's all about. And other people are a little bit sort of more afraid of the mosquitoes and all the rest of it. They're really not that bad. I mean, I say the mosquitoes down there are nothing compared to the ones we have in Canada. So Puerto Maldonado is, again, depending on the timing of all the flights, and the schedules are not all back up to speed and so on, but we will hope and assume that we will be able to take a short hop flight. It's about 40 minutes to get over from Cusco directly over to Puerto Maldonado, and you will be in a completely different landscape. And so do you want to tell them about Inca Terra a little bit, Martine? Or
yeah, absolutely. So just so you know, there's two accesses to the Amazon in Peru. There's one, it's Iquitos, which is in to the south, and then you have Puerto Maldonado to the north. And I hope I'm not mistaking the two. I have to look at it. It might be the opposite. But Puerto Maldonado is by far where I would recommend anyone to go. Iquitos is very raw, like very raw. And there I almost believe the mosquitoes are the size of my head. But in Puerto Maldonado, I feel like it's been a little bit more groomed to some degree, because you have a lot more sort of these kind of eco lodges and things, but then it has the raw forest all around it. So you'll have the Amazon River, you have the forest, and Inca Terra is one of the well-known lodges in the area, and they have a chain of hotels across Peru, and the quality of service is a lot higher than most places. So it's going to be very organic, but very comfortable at the same time, because there's other lodges where it's very organic, and that's all I leave it there. But this one is actually very comfortable and organic, and you'll have the chance of doing all these different tours that you can choose. They have a menu there of different tours, so that you can really go at your pace and see what you want to see, whether it's hiking or going by boat or just doing a night hike, or but if you're into wildlife, this is where you want to definitely add. That's why you'd want to add on this part, really, to see the wildlife of the Amazon, which Absolutely. Is fantastic.
And yeah. I stayed in this lodge the last time, maybe the last two times that I was in Puerto Maldonado, and it is really to be in the middle of the jungle, in the middle of the rainforest, and have such a sumptuous accommodation. All of the rooms are little bungalows that it's they're lit at night with the paths are all lit up. You don't generally go sort of out wandering around at night unless you're on a night hike. I highly recommend, because it just freaks you out. It's one of those things that's quite frankly a little bit terrifying, but they keep you very safe. And the stuff that you see, I'm not even going to tell you what you see, because when you hear it, you might not think you want to see it, but you do want to. And you can come back, relax, and take a massage overlooking the Amazon River. Of course, as you can see, the rooms are all very rustic in the design sense, but super comfortable. It's really, really a marvelous experience, and a very comfortable way to enjoy the Amazon. So our program there is for 3 nights. In theory, you could stay longer if one wished, because the number of activities that they have on offer, could keep you there for a week at least. So, but I find 3 nights is a good amount of time to get a good sense of what the Amazon is all about, and all the wildlife and the stories of the natives that live there. Delicious food, a lot of it sourced right from the area. And so it's really a terrific experience. Oh yeah, the canopy walkway. I mean, those that are a little bit afraid of heights, just don't look down. This is about all of the advice that I have.
A bucket list kind of add-on, it's either want to be in the Amazon rainforest or you don't, so, but if you've ever wanted to be, this is definitely the place to go. Yeah.
I completely agree. And I've been in Brazil in the Amazon, and I've been in Iquitos and so on. But I think this captures a lot because we're so far up the river. It's relatively narrow and compact. And I think that's a benefit because there's just a lot to see in an overseeable, if that's a word, area. If you're in Brazil and Manaus in the Amazon, I mean, the river is, you barely see the other side. It's so big. So the distances are huge, but here you get that authentic Amazon experience. You get to see
pink dolphins in the Amazon. It's amazing. The pink dolphins. I hope you get to see them. Make some loud noises, like squeaky loud noises. They can come out because they work by sonar, so they don't see because it's so opaque, the water, that they come out and try to figure out where that's from. And they're it's very cool to see that.
So many things indeed. We will ultimately have to say goodbye to Peru, and with the conclusion of our extension program. I'll just cover off a few of the details. You will get a copy of our program itinerary, brand new, fresh off the press, as it were. It will be sent to you together with a replay of this webinar. Just to give you a few details, the main program here, price is shown as usual in Canadian dollars. I think it represents really good value for the accommodation, for the great services that Martine will be providing here, as well as listed in the brochure. I won't go through them all, but I mean, you've got breakfast and lunches or dinners practically every day. You've got a great host who really knows her way around, and of course, all local guides. Domestic flights are included. So basically, you just add on the flight from Canada to Lima, and you're there. And as I say, the only other thing that on this particular program we haven't included is, of course, the extension program or the Nazca Lines flight, which, if you're up for it, is certainly well worth it. But not everybody's up for it, so that's why we like to sort of make that sort of known. And here the pricing for the add-on program, which includes again the airfare to get into Puerto Maldonado and back to Lima. So I won't, as I say, dwell on all the details because it'll be all there in your program itinerary. As I mentioned just briefly on the topic of airfare, I was looking into the airfares a little bit earlier today, and so at the moment, they're actually below the numbers here. You can get in there for sort of about around $800, which is pretty good. But what we're hoping for is the direct flight from Canada. Even so, even if, I've typically flown down to Peru and other places on Copa Airlines via Panama, and even done a stopover in Panama. In fact, I think the last time I did there. So there's ways that you can make this an interesting trip and sort of combine it with some other things that you might like to do while you're in South America. So now's the chance to ask any questions that you might have. We have Martine here and available. And of course, she's down there all the time in Peru. So is a wealth of information. And well, I know I have a question. Well, I think I know the answer to the question, but because we always neglect to mention about the weather, because people want to know what's the weather going to be like, and why are we going at the end of May, the beginning of June? Because of course everybody wants to go in January to a warm place such as this, but maybe you can give us the answer to that question.
Yeah, well, if you go in January, February, March, it's their summer, but it's their rainy summer. So it's where you have, crazy amount of rain. It could wash away roads. It's actually quite dangerous to travel during those months. And May is the beginning of the dry season. So May, June, July, August, July being like peak of the season in Peru for tourism. So we are going on a shoulder month, which is great, meaning that there's not as many people. But we're going when it's dry. So it gets cooler. So I tell people you need to dress like an onion. So in many layers, right? So we start the day, you might be super hot. And then by the afternoon, you might be cold. And at night, you might need like almost like, like a thicker kind of jacket. So in our information package that we're going to hand out once you have booked and we have confirmed the trip and we have all our people ready to go, you're going to get all that information so you can prepare properly. But it's definitely the best time to go. Plus in Canada, May is still, iffy. So it's a good time to go to May, June is like a great time to go to Peru. like the
Trade our
perfect.
Canadian mosquitoes in June for the mosquitoes of the Amazon, right?
Yeah, so the Amazon will be even less mosquitoes at that time because it's dry. It's when it's rainy, you don't want to have that's when the mosquitoes come out. But in the highlands, we don't have mosquitoes and things like that, so we're good.
Indeed. Paula, any other questions from our members?
No, I haven't had anything else come in at this
Great.
time.
Means we must have done a good job. Thank you, Martine, very much for.
My pleasure. I hope to see you all there. We're gonna have a lot of fun. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you for a passionate introduction to Peru. I highly recommend this trip, and particularly with Martine, because as you can see, she's so passionate about the destination, and as I am as well. In fact, I'd like to go, but we send the experts whenever we can. So if you do come up with any questions, of course, please do drop us a note as usual to Paula or myself or to our general email box, and we will get right back to you. We'd love to have you along. And if you are following our series of webinars next week, we are planning to bring you Morocco, Land of Enchantment. And in fact, in conjunction with our host and my good friend, Alfie, that some of you will know from our trips, or if you're going to be going to Tuscany in next month in October, he's actually currently in Morocco and will be bringing us a live report from there. So that's happening next week. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to bring you these webinars about our destinations, about our programs. I look forward very much to hearing from you. Oh, did I see a message just come in? Oh, and yes, Paula put Morocco up there. So there's a link to the Morocco webinar in the chat box if you want to grab that. But of course, it'll be in our newsletter this weekend. So I will see you then. Until next week, take care. And we look forward to having you along on our wonderful trip to Peru next year in May. Bye-bye for now.